everyone. Thank you for downloading another episode of The Retro Gamers. Larry here.
And Anthony here.
Anthony, way over there still. What's going on?
Way over here. Way over here. Still in Japan.
Oh,
still
man.
in Osaka.
Another week. Oh, you're in Osaka. Last week you were in Tokyo.
Oh, that's right. I was in Tokyo last week. Well, now I'm in Osaka.
you just know you're in the country. You don't know where you are.
Look, I don't know. People put me on trains and send me places, and and here I am.
How was it riding the bullet train? That's like a really famous, big to-do train over there.
It was fast.
Sure, bullet train, right? Did it feel like?
Yeah.
Did you feel it? It's going like 500 miles an hour or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely fast. But yeah, it doesn't feel that different.
Okay.
It's kind of like when you're on a plane. A plane's going like 500 or 600 miles an hour, but you don't necessarily feel it. So
That's cool.
same thing here. I mean, what I really thought was interesting about it was that it was an incredibly smooth ride.
Yeah, because I think it's all magnetism. I think it technically not levitates, but because of the magnets on the rail, I think that's why it's a smooth, fast ride. I think.
Yeah, more or less. I particularly enjoyed the fact that having grown up in New York and knowing how those subways go, that it was it was just a nice smooth ride for a change. And not only that, the trains here, the seats are incredibly comfortable, and the ride, like I said, the ride is very smooth. They're very clean.
Oh yeah, no, certainly not. I mean, they'll jam 1,000 people into one car, but they keep everything orderly.
They will, but with the bullet train, it's interesting because like you because it's such a long ride, you reserve your seats.
Oh, okay.
So I just sat in my reserved seat, watched the countryside go by, played some video games, dozed off, woke up,
and did all the normal touristy stuff.
Yeah, did all the things you would do on a long-term trip. I mean, all in all, it was only a 2.5-hour ride between Osaka and Tokyo,
That's not bad.
When you think about it, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, not bad at all. And you had to say goodbye to Super Potato for now, at least.
I did. Super Potato for now is in the past, but I'm not ruling out another opportunity to go there.
Very good, very good. Have you done any shopping yet since you're back in Osaka?
No, I have not had time. It's been incredibly busy with work.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm having long hours and no days off since last we spoke.
There you go.
So, but I do plan on going shopping tomorrow.
Good.
And there's a store here called, I believe it's
Super
called
Mega
Retro
Potato.
Yeah, Super Mega Potato, or Super Sweet Potato, maybe. But no, there's another store here. I only looked it up online, so I have no idea if it's good. It's in an area called Nipponbashi, I believe, if that was said correctly, and it's called Retro TV Game Revival.
Ooh,
so
that sounds promising.
It does, based on the images on Google Maps.
Mm-hmm.
It looks incredibly promising. So. I'll see what happens with that tomorrow. And the other cool thing about it is somebody told me that in that area, it's kind of like the gaming area.
Okay.
And so I should be seeing multiple stores there that are game related. And on top of that, they also said it's a very trendy cosplay area.
Really?
As well.
Okay.
So... Right, so I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I know what cosplay is,
right.
But I'm not sure what that means in terms of like, do people working there cosplay, or do regular people dress up when they go down there? So I will find that out and have a full report for the next episode.
Nice, careful, maybe just a bunch of furries.
It might be, and hopefully they don't attack. So
awesome.
We'll see what happens.
All right, cool. And your Japan escapades continue, and of course you have some stuff. I know you want to get home to get that Nintendo Switch that's waiting for you.
Yes, that Nintendo Switch is eagerly awaiting for my return so I can plug it in, stare at it for 30 seconds, and go back to work.
You were live for a little while there playing. You plugged in the Famicom. You couldn't wait to get home. You got the Famicom going, didn't you?
Well, I thought it would be a cool thing to do since,
Yeah.
the Famicom is the original Japanese system.
Sure is.
And I was in Japan,
How
where I was
often
born.
can you say that you played the Famicom in Japan? So, honestly.
Well, not only that, but I played the Famicom that I purchased.
That too, your
in
Famicom in Japan.
Yeah, it's mine. It's mine. I physically own it. And not only that, I mean, I just figured it was logical for me to at least try it out,
it was
since
fun.
like if it didn't work, it would have been the return policy would have been a little tough if I had gone back to Los Angeles with it.
That's true. Did it? I know it's going to sound silly, but I'm just going to ask. Like, did the system feel different? Did the controllers feel different? Did it just like gameplay? I mean, like, how the system hold up? It looked like it held up fine.
I mean, yeah, system held up fine. The coolest thing was I only had to blow into the cartridge once to get it to work.
There you go.
Even though they say that's not how you get them to work, I still did it because that's what I always did. The biggest difference between that and a Nintendo, I will say, is that the controller length is extremely short because, like the mini version of it, the controllers are attached to the console, and I think there's only about 3 feet of cable, so you have to be right on top of the system.
I think because, and I'm not one of the few times I'm not trying to be funny about this. I think because the way like the homes were set up back then, I think everything was very close knit. So I'm assuming that's why the system cable length was so short. I mean, I can't imagine like the AV wire being like 20 feet long to get to the television, and they're playing with it, on their lap or on their, coffee table.
Yeah, I honestly wish I had an answer for that, but I don't. I mean, that's a good assessment. I just know that when I bring it home to play it, it's gonna have to either I'm gonna have to move a chair really close to the television and ruin my eyesight, like my mom warned me was gonna happen, which didn't matter anyway because I'm blind as a bat.
There you go.
So, or just stare at it.
All right, cool. Hey, not too bad, not too bad. Did you play anything else just on your own besides? Well, you only bought 3 games, right?
I bought 4 games.
Oh, 4 games.
So I tried Mario out. I did not try Goonies.
That's right. Okay.
And I specifically bought the Goonies because the first Goonies game was never released in the U.S. It was only released in Japan, to my knowledge. So, and the second game was a little weird, so I wanted to get my hands on the first one.
Okay.
And then I got Final Fantasy 1 and 2, which I'll never play through because, quite frankly, I won't be able to read it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then there's the original Legend of Zelda, which will remain sealed.
There you go. I don't blame you. So you have to get one more Zelda, that's beat up a little bit, that's cheaper, but still plays. So that way maybe you get your experience on that.
Yes, my next shopping trip tomorrow, I kind of have a few games. I have a few games pegged.
Okay.
One of them will be another copy of Legend of Zelda, so I can actually play it. And then another game is I want to get my hands on the original Super Mario Brothers 2.
Oh, Our Lost Levels.
Yes. And Super Mario Brothers 2, though, was not released on the Famicom cartridge system. It was released on the Famicom disk system only.
It was completely on the disk system? Wow.
It was completely on the disc system. So in order to play it, you need to actually buy the disc portion add-on for the console. So I will be pricing that out tomorrow when I get to the store.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, and if it's affordable, I will buy the disc. I will buy the disc system. If it is not, I'm just going to buy Super Mario Brothers 2 for posterity.
Sweet.
So I have it.
While you're there, why don't you try and find the original... this is going to get confusing. The original Japanese version of Super Mario Brothers 2 USA, which over there is a Doki Doki Panic. See how that is. See if you can find that.
Yes, that is also on my list. I want to get Doki Doki Panic.
It is now.
I want to get Super Mario USA as well.
Okay. Okay.
And then, based on some recommendations my friend Sean gave me, he told me to pick up Contra because he said Contra, the frame rate on it is a lot faster and smoother than the US version.
Okay.
He also said Castlevania 3, same reason.
Oh, wow.
And on top of that, he said there's another Castlevania-related game called Kid Dracula, or Castlevania-like game called Kid Dracula. So I'm going to keep my eye out for that.
Cool. All right, cool. Well, good
that's
luck with
my shopping list, but who knows what I'll wind up picking. I'm basically going to leave my clothes in Japan.
There you go. Well, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So
games are more important.
That is true.
You can always buy clothes.
You can. You can. All right, cool. Well, good luck with the shopping. Can't wait to see what. What do you got?
Yes, but I just wanted to switch gears a little bit because what's going on with you in Castlevania? Since I just brought it up.
Oh yes, Castlevania. Yeah, no, not this week. I was getting ready to play Castlevania 2 as usual. My Friday was a little bit packed, so I was going to play a little earlier. What happened is, long story short, and this being the truth, my NES Classic I brought to my cousin's house so my godson can play it. And then when I brought it home, I was just too lazy to rehook it back up to the television, especially breaking out the system to record and everything like that. On top of that, I had something to do at 9 o'clock Friday night. And then Friday night being Mario Day, March 10th, I figured, you know what, if I can't dedicate a full hour to Castlevania 2, it's not worth playing. And we'll talk about Mario Day a little later. But I haven't forgotten about Castlevania 2. I know it's been a couple weeks, but I don't really have... looking at the calendar right now. All right, maybe I'll play a different day this week because, again, my Friday is a little busy. But I will get back to it this week.
So basically you're saying you were too lazy to commit yourself to what you promised our listeners you were going to do.
Absolutely.
All right, good to know. I just want to put that out there so that everybody's aware that you're, that this is what you're doing.
I never promised I would play every week. That I want to throw out on the table right now.
I believe. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that, but I'm not going to go back and check that. So
we'll check one of our historians, so they'll check the records.
Yes, we'll check in with our number one fan.
Number 1 and 1A. But yeah, that's what happened. So, if I'm going to dedicate to Castlevania, I'm going to dedicate when I play. This week, looking at my calendar, I'll probably do it either Wednesday or Thursday because I got a couple more Islander games because I got some tickets to those. So, and those are Saturday games.
Oh, that's fair enough.
So, but besides Zelda, the Zelda, what am I talking about? Besides Castlevania, I've been playing a little bit of Zelda on the Switch, which I know as soon as you get back to the U.S., you're going to be trying to play when you get... Hey, the Switch is portable. You can play wherever you want.
That's very true, and I have another trip coming up in a few weeks. So.
There you go. Well, bring a plug with you because it is only about a 3-hour battery on handheld mode, but still.
So I've heard.
But finally got last week's episode. I didn't get the Switch because Amazon was being jerks about it. But finally got the system, and just real quick, I'm going to say it is excellent. It is the hype finally. The Wii was cool. The Wii U was a little lackluster. I like the Wii U personally, but generally speaking, the Wii U was lackluster. But the Switch is everything the hype is and more. The system plays smooth. I mean, by the time I'm done here, I'll have 4 games. But when I got the system, I only had Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The game plays everything like the ratings are saying. 10 out of 10, 5 stars. I mean, all the websites are just praising Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I've been reading the reviews. I've been reading the reviews of it since I can't play it, and again, my cousin who just started listening to our podcast was talking to me about it because he picked it up and he couldn't say enough good things about it. And I know it's not retro related, and we're talking about Switch, but yeah, I mean Zelda games that Nintendo has always taken very good care of that series.
Yes.
it may be hard to follow in terms of the timeline of it all because they do a lot of things where like certain games happen if Link succeeded in this game, then this game spawned from it. If he failed, then this one spawned from it. So there's a lot of like alternate timelines. And the original Legend of Zelda is actually one of the last games in the timeline.
Yeah, right.
Even though it was the first one to come out. So, but Nintendo, as far as I know, has never failed to disappoint with a Zelda game. I've never heard of a really poorly rated Zelda game, with the exception of the ones that were released on CDI.
Yeah, those we try to ignore those.
It's animated like Dragon's Lair type.
Yeah, they were.
Zelda games. Yeah, I think that was the first and last time they ever decided to license out their characters.
There were two of them. There were two of them on the CDI, and they just. I never played them. I've only seen video footage, and they just play horribly. So we're not going to count those.
Yeah, seeing the video footage was enough. So between that and the very, very awful television show, that's about all the misfires I know of in the Zelda series.
Excuse me. So we treat those we treat those kind of like in the X-Men timeline, like where Days of Future Past showed up and completely erased a lot of what happened from X-Men 2 and 3. So, those CDI and everything.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I can safely say that the company that made the television show is no longer in existence because I actually used to work for that company.
And you took him down single-handedly. No, you did not. Legal reasons, he did not.
I did blame them for, the awful series.
So that's Switch. Awesome. If you can go out and buy it, is actually worth every penny. When your competitors are praising you, Microsoft and Sony are praising the Switch, and good luck and out there and everything, you got to have a good product in your hand, in my opinion. So,
well, I honestly think that they're only doing that because I don't honestly think they see it as a threat because. Nintendo has always been focused on gaming first, whereas like PlayStation and Xbox to me are more multimedia consoles. It's not just about games. Totally. So I don't think they ever think of Nintendo as on their level. So it's like of course they wish it all the success in the world. They don't think it's ever going to catch up to them.
But you've never seen companies do this. That's what I'm saying. Like I've never seen Microsoft or Sony go, just do that with each other. And yes, Nintendo, I mean, they're not playing 4K, none of their systems play DVDs, for a reason. And, but it was kind of weird, I guess in a way to see just the companies kind of even recognize it. Even if it's never going to be on the level. But the Switch, honestly, in my opinion, it's going to be on the level of those systems, but like for different reasons. So, not graphically, but just gameplay. But one game that's out, I didn't realize was out already, actually. As soon as we're done recording, I'm going to go download it. What's old is new. I like to talk about every now and again. This kind of came out of nowhere. Blaster Master Zero is actually available on the 3DS and on the Nintendo Switch. First new Blaster Master game in a while, because I know there was some weird Blaster Master game they did on the DS, but first kind of legit Blaster Master game in a long time. And Blaster Master is 29 years old now, and they're pumping out a new game that looks like the original. And it with some modern tweaks to it, plays like the original. And it's pretty, I mean, it's $10 to download, so you can't beat that.
No, new game, $10. That's a win.
Totally. And even though both games are available, on the 3DS and on the Switch version is going to have exclusives, which I just want to just touch on real quick here, which is almost a lot of it's kind of first for the game, because the original NES game was single player, stuff along those lines. This one on the Switch is multiplayer, Joy-Con multiplayer. And what's cool about it is player one is the player, they play the game. Player 2 assists with, like, you'll see player 2, there'll be crosshairs on the screen, almost like in Super Mario Galaxy, where player 2 can help you, like, collect stars and everything. Player 2 can actually shoot at other things on the board while you're playing the game.
No, that's really cool.
They do that, and then I think at certain points they can drop recovery items for you. Player 2 can do that. HD Rumble, which I haven't experienced just yet, that HD Rumble that they keep talking about. Zelda, I haven't gotten to a part yet, I think, where I can really take advantage of that. And in the Switch version, which I think is pretty cool, there's a certain, I don't know which one it is, but there's a certain dungeon in the game where, like, the water elements completely affect you. Like, there's a tidal wave that comes through every now and again. If you get caught up in it, you get dragged to, I guess, the beginning of the level. But they say you can really, in that HD Rumble, you can really feel that water flowing, and you smack it into the wall, I guess, if you get caught up in it. So,
well, I guess that's kind of awesome. I mean, because what game player doesn't want to feel, like they've been in a tidal wave that smacks them up against the wall?
Exactly. And the way this HD Rumble, they keep talking about the HD Rumble, I'm really trying to get to a point where I can feel the HD Rumble, because they're saying it's wild. But yeah, that's Blaster Master Zero. With a successful game like this, well, hopefully it's successful. I mean, it just came out.
I was just going to say, the jury's out, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm really hoping you see more of these, and I think with the Switch, and you've seen it before, like with Mega Man 9 and 10, and Sonic the Hedgehog 4, episodes 1 and 2, even the new Double Dragon, even though that got bad reviews, Double Dragon 4, this back to old school looks, you know what I mean? Kind of 2D retro look to it. I'm really hoping this takes off, especially for the Switch. So, Blaster Master Zero, check it out.
Yeah, well, I think because retro games have become such a thing, and not just with people our age who grew up playing those games, but with the kids out there as well. Mm-hmm. I just think it's just another genre. The same way you have your first person shooters and you have your MMORPGs and everything like that. Now you have, a retro game category. So I think you're right. I think we will see more of those types of things. And actually, I was reading online about Zelda Breath of the Wild that they initially concepted the play for that as an 8-bit game.
Yes, I heard about that. I didn't read into it, but I did hear about that.
Yeah, so I mean, which makes me wonder if someday we may see an 8-bit version of Breath of the Wild.
Oh, can you imagine that? Not even Breath of the Wild, just another Zelda top-down game like that, like on the NES and the Game Boy games.
Yeah, it was an 8-bit prototype that was used for a presentation to explain the game.
Wow. That'd be awesome. Kickstarter.
Yeah, talking about going backwards to go forward.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. I think so.
And it's interesting too, because if you go online, and look it up, there are images of the presentation, and it basically looks like they took the original Legend of Zelda, the Legend of Zelda coding, mm-hmm. Or engine, and they just remade it to explain how they were going to do Breath of the Wild.
That's cool. I gotta check that out.
So, yeah, it's actually kind of awesome. So, anybody right now who's playing Breath of the Wild is really into it. You can actually go online and look at images of the 8-bit presentation that was put together.
You can also, at some point in the game, you can unlock or find or purchase or something Link's original outfit, green outfit, because he doesn't really he doesn't wear it in this. He almost looks like a hobo in this game. But you can find eventually his original outfit from the original Legend of Zelda. So I think that's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Also, ton of amiibo. You can any amiibo, Zelda amiibo that you scan into the game, you unlock a bunch of power, special weapons and everything. But this particular amiibo, it's one of the Guardians. I'm going to show in here real quick. Just look at the detail on this guy.
Oh wow!
And he's huge. One of the Guardians.
I would love to say that looks amazing, but considering how pixelated you are, because I'm about 10,000 miles away, I really can't. I really can't make it out that well.
Then never mind. So, all right. Well, yeah. Oh, what is it? Checking that out right now. I'm just gonna check out a little Zelda 2D. Look at this thing.
Somebody recorded the presentation and posted a bit of it on YouTube. So for anybody who wants to see the 8-bit version of Breath of the Wild, it is available on YouTube. And
we will link it.
Larry, if you wouldn't mind sharing that on our page, since after we're done here, since I'm on the other side of the world and tired.
You'd be going to bed. Even if it played like that, it's very simplistic, but even if it played like that, I'd play a whole Zelda game, even looking like that. Huh.
Oh, if they ever released another 8-bit Zelda game, I'm all in.
It almost looks like South Park. Like how South Park used to be. Exactly. The graphics that is. All right, cool.
Yes.
Check that out.
So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely sweet. I'm going to check that out as well. Actually, it's funny. Blast Master's almost 30 years old. A lot of things are celebrating anniversaries. And it's a 20-year anniversary for a show I was never really into, but you absolutely loved.
Well, actually, what's funny? Yes, we are at that point in time where the television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer is celebrating its 20th anniversary. It's really hard to believe that show debuted,
honestly,
20 years ago, March 10th, 1997.
Unbelievable.
But the funny thing about it is I wasn't a fan of the show initially.
No, not at first. I know that. Yeah, you got into it later.
Yeah, I got into it later because I remember a friend of mine telling me that I needed to watch it, and I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I'm like, okay, this is garbage. I'm like, this is just bad. I go, it's just it's just an extension of the movie, and I didn't care for the movie very much. So, and then fast forward a little while later, and my friend Anthony, who I grew up with. I met him in kindergarten. So I've known him from way, way back. And he told me, he's like, you really need to watch the show. And at this point, the show was already, I think, going into season 6.
Oh, wow.
So, it was only a seven season show. So they were just starting season 6, and it was the summer, but it was right before it started season 6. And he's like, you have to watch the show. Trust me. And he handed me VHS tapes. He had recorded every episode on VHS. Now, I don't know if there was a marathon. I think there was a marathon on at some point or whatever, because at the time between seasons 5 and 6, the show had actually changed channels.
Yeah.
It was on the WB. It moved to UPN. If anybody even knows what UPN is anymore.
UPN,
now,
yeah.
Forget about talking about retro games. I'm talking about retro television stations. But it had switched over, and I don't know if they did a marathon or whatever. So he gave me the episodes, and and again, I still say the first season is rocky. It really is. But if you're a fan of Joss Whedon's work, like people out there who listen now and they've seen The Avengers and they've seen Firefly and stuff like that, it takes a little time to get into a Whedon show. You have to be patient.
I forgot he did that.
What?
Josh Whedon. He was part of Buffy. I mean, he wasn't an actor.
No. He was the creator.
I know.
He created.
Yeah, so I forgot.
He created Buffy. So. And any Whedon show takes a little time to get used to. Once you get used to it, it's awesome. So, I gave Buffy another chance, and then I was absolutely hooked. And I binge watched before binge watching was cool because Netflix wasn't around yet. So I binged my way through all the VHS tapes, and then picked up where season 6 was at the time, and ran my way through. I know this is leading somewhere retro game wise. Trust me, but yeah. So I thought to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Buffy, which was again March 10th, 1997. I thought for this week's retro spotlight we'd talk about the Buffy the Vampire Slayer video games.
Yes, on Xbox.
No, there were several.
I know. But wait, before that.
Well, in the interest of normally I keep my retro spotlight to one game. In this case, I'm actually going to cover all of the games
Okay.
for Buffy, only because there were only 6 games. There's actually not a tremendous amount of information to give them
Mm-hmm.
because, as we all know, like games based on television shows or movies generally aren't very well liked or
Not at all.
aren't given, yeah, or they're just not given the attention that they deserve. They're usually just kind of pushed out
Mm-hmm.
for the sake of cashing in on an already established audience for something. So. For our retro spotlight, we're going to be looking at Buffy the Vampire Slayer video games,
Nice.
and I'm going to go chronologically since that just makes the most sense.
Why not?
And yeah, why not? So, and what's interesting is the first game that came out actually was not the game on the Xbox. It was a game on Game Boy Color in 2000.
Oh.
It was just titled Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There really isn't much to talk. Isn't much to talk about with this game because it takes place in season 4, which was arguably the weakest season of Buffy. People will come back and forth and tell you their opinions. Since I'm doing the retro spotlight, it is my opinion. Season 4 was the weakest season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So the first game that came out on Game Boy Color takes place in season 4. There were only 8 levels in the game. And the reviews for it were completely abysmal. So, in fact, IGN and Game Informer gave it a whopping 2 out of 10.
Ooh, all right.
So very scathing. And again, kind of living up to the whole game based on television show
Yeah, pretty much.
idea. Right. Then, so that was the first game ever for the series, and it was a handheld game. Then we move over to console. Now, the very first Buffy the Vampire Slayer console game came out in 2002 on the Xbox. However, it had been in development for a few years.
Really?
It was originally supposed to come out on the PlayStation 1.
Wow.
And I don't know if, and I'm assuming it was early on in the television series, and I'll explain why in a minute. But it was originally supposed to come out on PlayStation 1. And then, it wound up in development hell like games do. And then they had moved it over to the Dreamcast. So they were like, okay, we're going to do it on Dreamcast and we'll do it on PC for Windows. And they missed that window
No pun
because Dreamcast, right, no pun intended, the Dreamcast had kind of come and gone. So then they finally moved it over to the Xbox where it was released in 2002. Now, the interesting thing about the game is when you play it, it basically plays like a season of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 13 levels in the game, and each level kind of feels like a mini episode of a season. So you're essentially getting like, a 13 episode season with this long, with this one overarching storyline. And the reason why I said it was interesting, it's interesting to know how long it took to make this game. It's because the overarching story for the game was actually based on the season 1 villain.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and at this point in 2002, they were already on season 6.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it definitely had come a long way. And it was a single player game only. Because it was the story mode. However, when they were debugging the game, when they were testing the game,
Mm-hmm.
they had a multiplayer mode to kind of as a potential part of the game, but they were using it to test the game. And there's a glitch in there where you can actually find your way to play the multiplayer version of the game
Oh, really?
in the original Xbox. Yeah.
I never heard of that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually a hidden multiplayer mode that you can access if you know how to do it. So again, really good game. All of the cast from the show actually provided the voices for the game, with the exception of.
Let me guess.
You want
You
to guess?
the star of the show and the game herself.
Yes, Sarah Michelle Gellar did not voice Buffy in the video game. They did get a sound alike, and also the villain, the main villain in the game, who was the Master in season one, the actor who played the Master did not voice his
Oh,
character either. But everybody else came on board and voiced their characters.
everybody
So
else needed more money.
yeah, I get, that's what happens when you're a supporting cast. Um, so anyway, the great thing about this game is that it was actually really well reviewed and very successful.
The game,
So
I remember that game. I wasn't a big Buffy fan. I didn't watch Buffy, and you guys tried to talk me into it. I just wanted nothing to do with it. But the game, that game played smooth. That game was so much fun to play, and I remember it was like probably one of the Xbox games I played the most. To be honest with you.
yeah, I played through that game several times because it was just really enjoyable. Like you said, like the game mechanics were good. It was fun. It was just a fun idea, fighting monsters and vampires and things like that. And then on top of it, it was a good story. It actually had a good story because they had by the time the game came out, there had already been like novelizations and like novellas and original stories being written. They had brought the author in, the writer in for those
Oh,
to work on the games.
okay.
He wrote out the whole story for the game. So all in all, very very well received. In fact, its highest rating was a 9 out of 10 by Game Informer.
There you go.
Yeah, so it was actually it was the highest rated game of all the Buffy games that came out. So moving on from that game, in 2003, and this was at the point now where for the show, it's season 7 and it's the last season of the show. So for Game Boy Advance, there was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Wrath of the Darkwood King. For some odd reason, it was set in season 4, and I've already told you my feelings on season 4. It had 16 levels in it. There are 2 main villains, both from season 4. Again, only Entertainment Weekly gave it a positive review. Everybody else did not like it.
EW.
Yeah, well, Entertainment Weekly, they're not known for their video game reviews. I can't imagine them reviewing it in 2003. So I'm guessing whoever was writing the recap articles for the Buffy episodes was the one who played it. And
Probably.
gave it a positive review. Yeah, so it is what it is. So moving back to console in 2003, again, final season of Buffy on television. They came out with a follow-up to the console game with Buffy the Vampire Slayer Chaos Bleeds. And now this was the first multi-console game. It was released on Xbox, GameCube, and PlayStation 2. And to make it in their attempts to make it more interesting than the first game, it had a story mode and it had a multiplayer mode.
Aha.
So you were able to, and there were 4 different multiplayer modes. Granted, 3 out of the 4 were extremely similar. And then there was one really wacky one called Bunny Catcher, where you ran around catching bunnies.
I had Chaos. I don't remember that bunny mode.
Well, there was a bunny mode, and the reason why there was a bunny mode, if you're not a fan of the show, is there was a character on the show who was afraid of bunnies. So, and the other thing about this one is, in the first console game, you only got to control Buffy. In this game, you actually got to control Buffy and her friends.
Okay.
So, depending on the level you were playing a different character, including at one point a puppet. A wooden puppet who gets resurrected from a season 1 episode. So anyway, there was actually a novelization of the storyline for the game.
Oh, really?
Dark Horse actually printed a comic book prequel to set up the game. And again, it didn't get as high marks as the original Buffy game, but it still got decent to above average reviews.
I remember, yes. It wasn't, again, not a big Buffy fan, but I enjoyed the game so much. The first one, of course, I went out and bought the second one. And I remember, second one not as good as the first, but still good. So.
Yeah, so definitely, it was definitely worth playing. I still own both of those console games, and in fact, being that it is, well, I'm not home. I'm in Japan, but I am going home this week. So to commemorate, Buffy, Buffy's 20th anniversary, I will watch a couple episodes and put in the Xbox game and play through that again.
There you go. Watch the
And
musical
maybe,
episode. Love the
yeah,
musical episode.
yeah, maybe I'll stream that. Anyway, really quickly, two other games that came out. One completely inconsequential. It was a mobile game. It was called The Quest for Oz.
Okay.
Not the Wizard of Oz. Oz was a character on the show played by Seth Green.
Oh yeah.
And the game again got very horrible reviews for the fact that Oz is never even seen in the game. So,
way to go! All right.
So Buffy and Willow set out to save Oz, who gets kidnapped, and they never show Oz in the game. Anyway, that was a mobile game. That was a mobile game in 2004 after the show had ended. Now this one's interesting, and the reason why I say it's interesting is now that I know about it, I want to get my hands on it. It came out in 2009, 6 years after the show ended. Now the show ended in 2003, but the storyline lived on in comic books.
Yeah, there was like a season 8 comic book, right?
Yeah, there's a season 8 season. In fact, it's still going on now. It's 2017. Really? They're still writing Buffy comic books.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So, but 2009 was the last time they did a video game. It was on the Nintendo DS. It was called Buffy the Vampire Slayer Sacrifice. Interesting thing about these games are about this specific game is it's the only game that had a storyline that continues the story after the show ended. So it actually picks up after the show ends. Yeah, which is kind of cool because after season 7 ends, you don't know what happens unless you read the comics. So it was that. It was a combination beat 'em up and first person shooter. I have no idea how that works, considering it's a Buffy thing. But again, this is something that has piqued my interest. There are 24 levels in the game, which is massive for a game like this, and it was only released in Europe.
Oh,
and that's why I don't know. That's why I didn't know about it.
Yeah,
I couldn't find reviews on it, and I was wondering why. And when I was looking it up, I found out it was only released in Europe. So I'm like, okay, I don't own a Nintendo DS. But I need to get my hands on this game.
Well, I do own a Nintendo DS. I'm going to try and look that up.
Yeah, see if you can track it down. So that's to wrap up the Retro Spotlight. It was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I strongly urge anybody out there who has not seen the show to first off, view the show because it was extremely, extremely timely. It was actually ahead of its time. Very obviously cult classic, worth watching just watching the issues they tackled in that show, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s. It was really, really something special. And then once you're done with that, go grab the Xbox games and play through them because they're really, really fun.
Yes. All right. Well, this week's Retro Spotlight hit home because you enjoyed Buffy so much. Me, I only like one episode. I was more of an Angel fan.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
that
fix
show
that.
was pretty good. And the reason I watch Angel because there was a whole puppet episode. And,
yes. No, well, at one point I had that puppet. I had that replica puppet.
That's sweet. So I didn't realize Buffy. So Buffy debuted March 10th of 97.
1997.
How dare she debut on Mario Day? That is for shame, Joss Whedon. For shame.
Well, you do realize that Mario Day is only named Mario Day because MAR is March and 1010 spells out Mario. It's not the day it's not the day it was released.
No, of course. I never said anything was released on March 10th. I'm just saying it's Mario Day, and I guess it wasn't. No one put two and two together back then in 1997.
No, I don't think it was. I don't think it was a thing in 1997.
Actually, I think it's just been a thing recently. But yes, March 10th, unofficially Mario Day, as Anthony just said, the MAR 10, and that was this past Friday. where I normally would play Castlevania. So instead of Castlevania, I played some Mario games.
And how did that work out?
Fun, actually. What I did was, again, because of my laziness, not wanting to hook up everything to play Castlevania, I bootleg Facebook Lived it through the cell phone, so it had a very vintage look to it, very VHS recorder look to it. But I have a copy of Super Mario All-Stars. So to wrap your head around this, I played a Super Nintendo game that had hyped up graphics for original NES games that was released on the Wii, but I played it on the Wii U. I'll let you suck that in for a moment.
So basically, you worked off of that's like 4 Nintendo systems
in one.
Nicely done.
What happened is, I forgot what year it came out, but Super Mario All Stars originally released on the Super Nintendo, and it was Super Mario's. There was 4 games on it, but Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3 with 16-bit graphic. And I know we all love the original NES games, but when All Stars came out, I mean, I can't speak for you, Ann. I'm sure you'll say something in a moment, but I remember just seeing the hyped up graphics of Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, and just like falling in love again. Because back then, it was like, all right, 1, 2, and 3 done. We're playing the Super Nintendo. Like, you kind of forgot about them back then. And when you just saw the layout of the boards and the hyped up graphics, it really, I mean, it was almost like the first notion of nostalgia.
More or less. I mean, well, leave it to Nintendo. They're definitely the masters of the re-release. They're like the George Lucas of video games when it comes to re-releasing stuff. Nintendo always realized that there was an audience for that, so they would, and it was just a smart thing to do. I remember when I heard about it too, and I was like, okay, Super Mario All-Stars, why am I going to buy it? And then you saw the graphics, and you're like, holy crap, this looks so much better. I need to play it.
That's why I'm buying it.
So, yeah, that's why I'm buying it. So, it was just that instant appeal right away.
Certainly.
And, and now here we are 30 years later, and, how many times have you bought Super Mario Brothers? Because of virtual consoles and, just all these special versions.
I'm counting right now. 4, 5... I've probably, counting the original time I bought, well, my parents bought Super Mario Brothers, I've probably bought it 6 or 7 times. Different versions, Virtual Console, Game Boy Color, Super Mario All-Stars twice. So,
right. Well, I just bought it for the Famicom.
There you go, but that's your first time, so that's okay. We'll technically consider that a different game.
I understand that, but I'm just saying. That was a week ago.
No, I know, agreed. And it's funny because so many people, I see there's a lot of people out there, Super Retro Game Time, Player One over there, who I like to watch a lot of his videos. Check him out on Facebook. He does a lot of streaming as well of NES games. But a lot of people are always playing the original NES version of these games. I never really seen anyone play this enhanced, like the Super Mario All-Stars version. So I'm like, you know what? Let's do that. Let's have some fun. Play Super Mario All-Stars with the hyped-up graphics. But not only that, there was a 4th game, and when All-Stars came out originally on Super Nintendo, the North American crowd was introduced to what we know as Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels, what Japan knows for years as Super Mario Brothers 2.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing about Super Mario Brothers 2, because there was a lot of confusion going on about that, because when Super Mario Brothers 2 came out in the US, it was distinctly different from the first one. It was more colorful. The enemies were completely different. It was generally a very strange game.
King Wart? I mean, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, and there was a lot of so a lot of people were kind of like, they're like, and this was at a time when you weren't expecting the sequel of a game to be exactly the same as the game before, because sequels weren't even a thing yet in video gaming. So, yet there was something really odd about the whole thing, because everything was different, including just colors were different. Everything was different, and it obviously didn't come out until later that this game wasn't originally the sequel to Super Mario Brothers. It was a game. It was a game. It was a Japanese game that was reskinned as Super Mario Brothers for the American audience.
We mentioned it earlier. Doki Doki Panic is the original game.
Right. Doki Doki Panic is the original game. Now, I had wondered for a very long time why they would do something like that, because I'm like, okay, that makes no sense. I go, why would you reskin a Japanese game for Super Mario Brothers? And of course, if you go online now, you know the answer. But for those of you who don't know the answer to it, it's because the original Super Mario Brothers 2, which does follow the same graphics and style and gameplay of Super Mario Brothers 1. If you've played Lost Levels, you know that. But the reason why Super Mario Brothers 2 was not released on the original NES is because it actually was released in Japan on their Famicom disk system, not the Famicom. And the Famicom disk system was an attachment to the original Famicom that played games off of a floppy disk. So the original Super Mario Brothers 2 only existed on that floppy disk. And because they did not release the disk system as an attachment for the American Nintendo, they did not port the original Super Mario Brothers 2 to the Nintendo.
There you go. And so there's no confusion. I'm going to call the OG Super Mario Brothers 2 Lost Levels, just so there's no confusion. But Lost Levels was also for a difficult game right out of the box. And I feel like maybe another reason why they went with Super Mario Brothers 2 USA. Why they went with Super Mario USA, I think, is because it's not as difficult right out of the box. I mean, Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels, you get, like, if you don't know it, there's poison mushrooms in the game. And the second mushroom you get is a poison mushroom about 15 seconds into the first level. So I think that was another thing. They wanted to dull it down, the intensity of the game right out of the box. My opinion.
I was just going to say, it is your opinion. I do disagree with that opinion because
here we go.
One, you're wrong, and two, I don't, especially with older games, I don't think difficulty was ever an issue because of the fact that because games back then were smaller and shorter, they would up the difficulty level so it would take you longer to complete it. So I don't think the difficulty level was an issue. I just think it was what I stated, because it was released on the disk system. They didn't have a cartridge version of the game. Mm-hmm. Because if they had a cartridge version of the game, they would have released it on their Famicom system as a cartridge, not as a selling tool for the disk system.
Mm-hmm. No, I
and that's why we
hear you.
So you're wrong. Moving
on. Okay, so I just want to drop a quote here from Howard Phillips from Nintendo of America, who, and this is from quoting here, who evaluated games for the president of Nintendo of America, felt that the game was unfairly difficult, even beyond the unofficial moniker of quote-unquote Nintendo Hard that the company's other games sometimes garnered. His opinion was that the Lost Levels would not sell well in America's market. Few games were more... What word is that? Oh, stymieing. Okay. He later recalls the game not having fun is bad when you're a company selling fun. So I think we're both on that somewhat of the level of why.
Well, if I remember correctly, the Lost Levels was successful, so I believe he was wrong as well.
Eventually it was.
Right, so he was wrong.
Yes, eventually. So, Lost Levels, though, but I remember, playing Lost Levels. I ended up downloading the original Lost Levels. It was available on the Wii Virtual Console, like the way it was intended with the original 8-bit graphics, the way it was played back in Japan. And, man, the game was a hump. It still is, to be honest with you. But I played all 4 games on Mario Day. Threw it into the Wii U. Game is awesome. It was Super Mario All-Stars on the Wii was like a special edition release. I mean, you could still find it, but I just played a little bit. Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, 3, even a little bit of Lost Levels. I never really played through Lost Levels, so I'm getting an itch to really commit and try and do that game justice one day. So,
well, then, just give it a shot. I actually, at one point during your during your live feed. I believe it was this. Well, for me, it was this morning. I know for you, it was last night. But I did tune in and I saw you playing Super Mario Brothers 2 USA version.
Yes.
And of course, I would run into that. And I watched you die a couple. I watched you die a couple times so I could laugh at you.
Yeah, well, playing and talking is rough, especially reading comments on Facebook. But yeah, no, it was a while too.
It's a lot going on.
It's been a while since I played those games. You kind of, it's the muscle memory had a little trouble coming back. But
yeah, that's why. Well, when I was playing Super Mario last week here in Tokyo, I had completely spaced and forgot about the warp area for 6, 7, and 8, and wound up on level 5.
Oh, that one, yeah. I remember I skipped over. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that reminds me. When you get a chance, I need you to do some research on Super Mario Brothers because it may have worked on the Famicom, and I mentioned this in my broadcast. Do you remember with the original Super Mario Brothers, level 4-2, when the second dungeon, the second underground level, if you will, when you clear the 2 spaces and then you're the very beginning where it's all brick and then it's the three Goombas that come at you. Did you ever run backwards to glitch out the screen to jump up? You kind of get stuck in between the end of the screen and the wall. Then you can jump up one more time and then run through the top and pretty much clear the level.
Yes, I've done that before.
Okay. You can't do it in any of the re-releases. Just out of curiosity. When not now, when you get home, stuff like that. See if it works on the Famicom. I've been dying to see that again, and I haven't seen that since I've done it back in the late 80s.
All right, so when I get home, I will try and get that. Not only that, if I succeed, I will record and post it on Facebook.
Okay, I mean that's just really for my personal entertainment. So because I've been trying to do it forever, and
if it's for your personal entertainment, then I'll pass.
None of the re-releases let you do it, bums. All right, well, hey, happy Mario Day, everyone, and I hope you celebrated too by playing a Mario game somewhere in the world.
Yay!
Real fast, what's your favorite Mario cameo?
Ooh, Mario cameo. That's a good question.
If Mario is missing, does not count.
Why not? I guess, I got to go with the obvious one. I mean, I love Mario as the referee in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Exactly. That's me, too. That's right there. Got his referee's license and decided to go to work again. So, all right, sweet. And speaking of Mario...
Is there any other Mario cameo that, comes close to that?
Oh, he was the ref in not Mario Tennis, but he was the ref in tennis on Game Boy, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a lot of cameos. He's had a ton of cameos. I think he's in Tetris. No, he's not in Tetris. I think he's in Tetris on Game Boy.
Oh, well, like I said, Punch-Out's the one that I always go back to.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, with Mario, Day, March 10th, let's talk about this week in gaming. Any Mario games come out this week?
Oh, that's a good question, and I am remiss to say that the answer to that is no.
All right. Good night, folks.
However, exactly. However, there were other games that came out this week in gaming history, and we'll flip through some of them. And I've pulled out. Thankfully, I actually had time to put them in chronological order this time. So I hate jumping back and forth between years. It pisses me off. So
that DeLorean gets tiring.
Well, yeah, and you only have so much plutonium. So anyway, starting back 30 years ago, we have a 30th anniversary. Oh. We actually have 2 30th anniversaries. Both NES games released in Japan in 1987, this week in history. The first one was called 3D World Runner.
Oh,
I don't know if you know that game.
I know that game very well.
It was actually released on the Famicom Disk System, which we were just talking about with Super Mario Brothers 2, the original. And then the second game that is celebrating its 30th anniversary is The Goonies 2, which was released in Japan 30 years ago this week.
That's the one I know and hate.
Well, that's the one we all know because it was the only one ported to the United States. For some odd reason, the original game based on the movie was not ported to the U.S. And I'm sure there's a story in there I can do some digging and get an answer for. And I'm also very happy to say that I'm looking forward to playing that game when I come back to the States now that I have it.
Yeah, right.
Famicom.
Cool.
So it'll be fun to play that 30 years later. But Goonies 2, I actually remember playing through Goonies 2 and beating the game because I loved the movie so much that I had to. So, and I just remember getting all the way to the end of the game only to find out, spoiler alert, that Andy, who was in the movie, was a mermaid. And I'm like, so what the hell happened there? So,
yikes!
Just one of the things to shake your head at. Thank you, Nintendo. All right, moving.
So Goonies 2 became Splash.
Yeah, basically, since when Andy became Daryl Hannah. So moving on to 1990, this was an NES release in Japan. Do you remember the game Yo Noid?
I remember the game and the marketing series.
Yep.
Yo Noid.
That thing was
that was
one
Domino's.
of the most obnoxious things in the world. Do you also remember who he was the sponsor of?
Domino's.
Domino's Pizza.
Avoid the Noid.
Avoid the Noid. The mascot for a pizza company had a video game.
Oh, God, I remember that. This was great.
Let's just leave it there.
What? Now I want Domino's.
Well, they do deliver. 1992 is actually interesting because there are 3 games here that I want to mention that came out this week in history.
Okay.
One of them was Fire Emblem Gaiden in Japan. And Fire Emblem series, and the reason why I bring this up is because the Fire Emblem series is still putting out games today.
Yeah. Games coming out on the Switch.
That's going on 3 decades now almost. So Fire Emblem Gaiden, unfortunately, I've never played a Fire Emblem game. I've heard nothing but good things about the series, so it's one of those ones where it's like, you know what, one day I'm going to have to go back and play one of those.
I have one of them for the Game Boy Advance when Nintendo gave a bunch of us who owned it free, not Game Boy Advance, on the 3DS or DS, gave us free games, and one of them was Fire Emblem. I keep meaning to go back and play. It was one from Game Boy Advance. I think now I may try it out.
I think you should. Also released in 1992 on the Genesis in Japan was Toe Jam and Earl, the original.
Nice.
And for those who don't know, there is a new Toe Jam and Earl coming out for the Nintendo Switch.
Yep. Friend of mine, Mario, if you're listening, there you go. Happy anniversary for Toe Jam and Earl. He's a huge TJ and E fan.
Toe Jam and Earl loved playing that game. Absolutely loved playing that game. Never beat it, but loved playing it. Also this week, and this is an interesting one because I don't think it's one. I think it's a game most people in the world know. So it's a game that kind of extends beyond just a regular video gamer.
Okay.
It was released this week in 1992 on Windows 3.1.
Whoa.
Do you have any idea what it is?
Not Minecraft. Minesweep?
Minesweeper.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, that game rules.
Which was included in every PC imaginable.
That and Solitaire I got so good at.
Yes. Minesweeper and Solitaire were on every computer. And it came out this week in 1992.
Wow, I think my dad still plays Minesweeper. Every now and again I see him playing.
I was going to say, on rare occasions, if I can still find it on a computer or somewhere, I'll play it. I don't care.
Real quick before we move on, what was your opening? Hold on, what was your opening strategy in a Minesweeper? Did you click in the corners, or you just kind of clicked around to open up? Random?
At random. I
Okay.
just went random.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. There was no rhyme or reason to the first click. So
Well, some people would try and
you
get
just
that
had
one click that opened up a big spot. Then other people started from the corner and kind of worked their way down.
yeah. But if the corner had a bomb in it, the game was over anyway.
Well,
So it didn't matter.
if you clicked on the first box, it would have been a bomb.
Right. All right. So moving on. 1993, Sega Genesis, a game called Splatterhouse 3. Now the Splatterhouse
Ooh.
series is one of those rare series. I don't know if you ever played it. I actually, it was a game I was really fond of. I used to rent it from the video store all the time because it was a nice, gory, dark horror game.
Okay.
But it's also an incredibly rare game to find. If you find a completed version of Splatterhouse 3, I think it goes for over $100.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
So yeah,
Huh.
it was actually a really cool game. Really enjoyed it. And if you haven't heard of it, I suggest you research it. And if you get your hands on it, then give me a call.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, Moving to a year later, 1994, in Japan, the Genesis version of Castlevania Bloodlines, arguably one of the best Castlevania games ever created, was released.
Bloodlines, you're right. That
Uh,
was the sole reason why I went and got a Genesis.
yes, Castlevania Bloodlines was awesome. I remember playing through that game, and in fact, I think it had become at that time my favorite Castlevania game until Symphony of the Night came out, and then Symphony of
Agreed.
the Night was just like on a whole other level.
Agreed.
Yep. Also in 1994, on Genesis as well, but in the United States this time, Streets of Rage 3.
Okay.
Now, yeah, now I don't know if you played Streets of Rage. Streets of
I have.
Rage 2 was actually one of my favorites to play, but Streets of Rage 3 was equally as good. I
Hmm.
mean, side-scrolling beat-em-up games were just fun. Moving down the list, 1995, on the Sega CD in the US,
Hmm.
we had a special edition of Earthworm Jim.
Really? Well, what system again?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Sega CD.
Oh, okay. All right, I can see that. Yeah.
So again, I had no idea that they even released that, so that was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
Um, Jumping a few years to 1998 in Japan, PlayStation version released Dead or Alive.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and for those of you who don't know what Dead or Alive is, I'm sure Larry has played it many, many times.
I
Uh,
watched the movie a few times.
so, yeah, well, and then there was a movie based off of it, a very, very, very bad movie
Very bad.
about
But,
girls in bikinis who like to fight
that's
each
why
other.
I watched it. Yes.
Of course you did. Moving on. I'm going to jump a couple years to the year 2000. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was released on N64.
There we go. And we just talked about 2 last week, real quick, talking about that.
Yes, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was like one of those games that kind of came out of nowhere and surprised the hell out of everybody. In fact, I still have a song on my iPod that I listen to when I run that was originally from the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series.
Oh, really?
Yep, Superman by Goldfinger.
Awesome.
Yep, gotta love ska music, or at least one song. Um, in 2001, on Dreamcast in the US, we had Unreal Tournament released.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that game.
Yeah, totally.
That game was actually really popular at the time.
There's a whole engine
and then
named
we're
after
gonna-
it now.
Yes. And then jumping to 2002 for Game Boy Advance. Now, I know this was one of your favorite games. You used to play it all the time, I remember. It was Mary-Kate and Ashley Girls Night Out.
That game has replay value up the wazoo.
Yeah, because you're creepy.
If they didn't need any more money.
Yeah, I know. So moving on. 2003 in Japan on PlayStation 2, Final Fantasy X2,
Ooh.
the first Final Fantasy game to ever get a sequel.
Direct sequel, yeah.
A direct sequel, Final Fantasy X and X2. So X2 was released in 2003. On Game Boy Advance in Japan, also this week in 2003, was The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and Four Swords Adventure. It was a combo.
Fantastic game. The Four Swords Adventure game, which they later released as a standalone on the GameCube. That game was awesome. Of course, you got the original Link to the Past, but Four Swords Adventure. If you haven't played it, definitely go out and play it.
Yeah, I actually have it on the GameCube, and that game was actually really awesome. And in fact, on the GameCube, it's a pretty rare game to find too. And then we're going to jump. I'm sorry. We're going to stick to 2003. 2003, this week in history, there was actually quite a few things that were released of note. I'm just sticking to the main ones. But Pokemon Ruby and Pokemon Sapphire were both released.
Yep.
2003 on Game Boy Advance as well. So Game Boy Advance got quite a bit that week, which Pokemon and Zelda. And going back to Zelda for a minute, in 2004. On GameCube, Four Swords Adventure was released.
Oh, I didn't realize it was like a year or two later. Okay. Sweet.
Yep, exactly. Also in 2004 on PlayStation 2 in the US, we had Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six 3. That Rainbow Six series, I don't know how many games that wound up coming out with, but there were a ton of those.
And it led to The Division and now Wildlands, Ghost Recon Wildlands. So awesome games.
There you go. Finishing up my list here with a couple. 2005 on GameCube, we had Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, which if you remember correctly, came with bongos. We also had also in 2005 Super Monkey Ball Deluxe for PlayStation 2 and Xbox.
Okay.
You had the Mega Man Anniversary Collection for Xbox.
Oh yes.
In 2005. And last but not least, in Japan on PlayStation 2 in 2006, Final Fantasy 12.
Oh, wow. That seems a little late. But
so
that makes
sense.
It
was, I find it interesting when I do these This Week in Gaming History how some games seem to come out around the same time of the year. So, for example, like there were 2 Final Fantasy games that came out, this week in 2003 and then 2006. And
Tony
then
Hawk's right around near each other.
Yeah, Zelda 2003, 2004. So yeah, it's kind of interesting how sometimes these things fall on timetables.
I think it's done on purpose.
To each other.
Yeah, like Call of Duty's there every November.
I absolutely think they do because I think if you can get games on a schedule that way, then your fans expect know when they're coming out. So that concludes This Week in Gaming History.
All right.
For the week of March, whatever week this is. March. I'm so lost because I'm living in Japan right now.
March. March drops
12th.
on. Yes, there you go. March 12th.
This will be the week of March 12th.
All right. Yeah, you're going to be all discombobulated, especially with daylight savings time here in the U.S. So by the time you get home, who knows what date? It's going to be November.
I was going to say, do you know that Japan does not do daylight savings time?
Do you know? I think there's a city in Indiana that doesn't do it.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that too.
Or I think Indiana.
Yeah, so I'm going to be thoroughly confused. One, because when I get home, daylight savings time is in effect, so I'm going to be thrown off by that hour. Then I'm going to be thrown off by the other 17-hour difference. Or it will be 16 hours because of daylight savings. So it's just going to be all over the place. And then 3 days after I get home, I am running my very first marathon.
Oh, boy. There you go. All right. Which marathon?
The LA Marathon.
Oh, wow. You're going all in. All righty. There you go. Good luck, Anthony.
I've been training a lot.
Good. No, that's awesome. Anthony going to be representing the retro gamers. No, he's going to go out. That's cool. No, good luck with that.
There's an 8-bit version of me running the 26 miles.
It's like you. That'd be awesome.
I'm just going to be standing behind it. I'm just going to be standing behind it on a Segway with a controller.
Someone hits you shrink. That'd be awesome. No, definitely. Good luck with that. Is that thing televised? Is it like the New York Marathon?
They televise the marathon, but usually when they're televising it, it's the people that are in the front that are going really fast, so you won't see me.
So
I can guarantee.
At some point, you can try and attach yourself to like the cart that does the camera.
Yeah.
Nah.
Oh, and you know what? There's one other interesting thing before we wrap up.
Okay.
Here. but I wanted to bring it up before it disappears in Tokyo. Did you know that in Tokyo right now there is a company doing real life Mario Kart?
Oh my God, really?
Yes. So it's funny because somebody sent me a video of it the day after I was in a cab on the way to work, and I saw it in the street.
Did you?
I didn't see them. I didn't see them driving the carts, but I saw them getting ready, and I'm like, "What is that?" And then all of a sudden, I was like, "No way!" I was like, "So there's a company out here, and what you do is, you go over, you pay them, you pick out a costume, a Mario costume, like you pick a character from Mario Kart, you get in a go-kart, and you drive on the street."
Oh, that is amazing. And I'm sure you do not sign anything that waives anyone's responsibilities.
No, so I have made it a point that the next time I'm in Japan, because I have to come back here in April, I will track that down and I will Mario Kart.
Oh, that is awesome. That's what you want to do. Live Mario Kart on actual actual in traffic is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, and if they charge for a video, I will get a video.
Did they? I mean, how am I going to put this? Do they have power ups? Like, do you throw stuff at each other?
I'm assuming you don't.
Bump each other into traffic.
I mean, I think it's dangerous enough because you're driving through real traffic on the street.
Oh, that is fantastic. All right. Well, good luck with that next time. Let us know how that's gonna go. And but all joking aside,
if I'm not on the podcast next week, I died.
We'll let you know. Or at least with the marathon, if we don't catch you next week, or live from LA Hospital. No, in all honesty, good luck with that. That's awesome. Definitely good stuff. And other than that, have a safe trip back home whenever you get home. I don't think they just legally may have you there forever.
I know. Tell me about it. I mean, sometimes I'm getting to the point of delirium where my brain starts tricking me into thinking that the Virtual Boy was a good idea.
And on that note, we're going to end it. And good luck with everything, the marathon, the travel at home.
Thank you.
Check us out on Facebook as always. And with that, we'll have another week. Good night, everybody.